Hello YouTube, this is Corbin22 here, back with another 100-point Squadron build for Star Wars X-Wing Miniatures. Tonight we look back and do a bit of nostalgia. I've decided to take 3 ships of the Rebel Alliance and recreated the attack squadron that was part of the second Death Star assault as faithfully as I could. And the 3 ships include an X-Wing Incom T-65 X-Wing piloted by Wedge Antilles, a Koyansar BTL Y-Wing attack fighter bomber, piloted by Colonel Horton Salm, and an RZ-1 A-Wing interceptor piloted by Commander Arvel Crynyd. All of these guys were leaders of their respective squadrons. Wedge was red leader, Horton was gray leader, and Arvel Crynyd was green leader. And like I said, I've recreated this build as faithfully to the actual movie as I have, with a bit of a few twists to maximize combat efficiency. So yeah, here are the ships and their pilots. Let's look at the build. Pretty straightforward ship build I've got here. I've added a few new cards that I got from. I recently got a VT-49 Decimator, and I was able to equip some upgrades that I didn't previously have onto my A-Wing and Y-Wing. So yeah, that means let's get right to it. We'll start with the squadron leader of the build, and that is none other than Commander Wedge Antilles himself. He has a pilot skill of 9. He flies the Incom T-65 X-Wing fighter. He has an attack value of 3, an agility value of 2, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 2. He can take on the focus and lock-on actions. Costs 29 squadron points. He is able to take on an elite pilot skill upgrade, a warhead upgrade, and an Astromech upgrade. His ability states, when attacking, reduce the defender's agility value by 1 to a minimum of 0. So, Wedge is a favorite among a lot of X-Wing players because he is a bomber killer by nature. I mean, normally you would have to have the outmaneuver if you wanted to mimic Wedge's ability, you'd have to have the outmaneuver elite pilot skill upgrade in order to make that happen. And even then, you have to be outside the enemy's firing arc. But with Wedge Antilles, it doesn't matter what angle of attack he attacks from, the enemy's agility will always go down by 1 to a minimum of 0, which is especially dangerous against most bomber ships and the heavy assault ships, as well as the larger ships like, say, the Imperial Shuttle or the VT-49. Especially dangerous with the VT-49 because VT-49 naturally has 0 agility, so Wedge can attack from range 3, and Wedge's ability will cancel out the agility bonus that the Decimator would get. So yeah, let's see here. Now we move on to we'll start with his modification, and that is the Munitions Failsafe, classic for most of my previous builds. Basically states that when attacking with the second, it instructs you to discard it. You do not discard it until the attack hits. So as long as the attack misses, you do not lose the secondary. But if there is a secondary effect, a secondary passive effect that does apply, then, well, yeah, the effect will still apply, but you won't lose the secondary. Now for Wedge, I've done something a little bit different. Normally I go with an Opportunist card because that's a really good card to put onto Wedge. However, it wouldn't really work that well because Opportunist requires the enemy to not have a focus or evade. And considering that Wedge has the highest pilot skill of the squadron, naturally he would attack first, and Opportunist would pretty much be cancelled out, unless he got lucky and attacked another ship that did not take an action that required a focus or evade. So what I've done instead is I have given him Push the Limit. It states once per round after you perform an action, you may perform 1 free action shown in your action bar, then receive a stress token. So with Push the Limit, Wedge naturally, by default, has 2 actions, a focus and a lock-on. So with Push the Limit, I can take on both of those actions, but I will be stressed after I do so, which is fine. The X-Wing has a fair amount of green maneuvers that can help it to get rid of the stress. I think it's straight ahead 1 and 2 are green maneuvers, and its bank left and its bank both of its bank 1s are greens as well. So yeah, not too bad, all things considered. However, to make sure to make sure that he does get rid of the stress pretty much on the next turn, I've given him an R2 Astromech, which says you may treat all 1 and 2 speed maneuvers as green maneuvers. So that means all of Wedge's speed 1 and 2 maneuvers are now green maneuvers, which means he can stay on his opponent's tail with like a hard 2 or a soft 2 and relieve his stress at the same time, which allows for constant uses of push the limit if he needs to. And then, of course, for his secondary, his warhead, I've chosen Flechette Torpedoes, personal favorite of mine. They have an attack value 3, can be used at range 2 to 3, and they state, discard this card to spend your target to perform this attack. After you perform the attack, the defender receives a 1 stress token if its hull value is 4 or lower. Really, really useful against pretty much every single TIE fighter out there, because all the TIE fighters have hull values of 2 to 3. So, yeah. Pretty much, even if this attack misses, they're going to get stressed regardless. And thanks to Munitions Failsafe, even if it does miss, they'll get stressed, but I still keep the secondary. So, yeah, talk about bending the rules a bit. Now let's move on to his right wing man. The heavy attack ship of the build, that is Colonel Horton Salm. He has a pilot skill of 8. He flies the Koyansar BTL Y-Wing attack starfighter. He has an attack value of 2, an agility value of 1, a hull value of 5, and a shield value of 3. Like Wedge, he can also take on the focus and lock-on actions, costs 25 squadron points, and he's able to take on a turret upgrade, 2 warhead upgrades, and an Astromech upgrade. His ability states, when attacking at range 2 to 3, you may reroll any of your blank results. So Horton Salm is a beast when attacking at range 2 to 3, preferably range 2, because it allows you to reroll any of your blank results. So that means if you roll and you get 2 blanks, you have the option to reroll those blanks as long as you're at range 2 to 3. Which is especially useful against most of what Horton Salm's secondary, because most of those require to be at range 2 to 3. So this maximizes Horton Salm's attack capabilities when attacking at long range. Now for his title card, I've chosen a BTLA-4 Y-Wing upgrade title card, which states you cannot attack at ships outside your firing arc. After you perform a primary weapon attack, you may immediately perform an attack with a turret secondary weapon. So for no cost, you lose your omnidirectional firing arc with the turret, but you can attack twice with this within the same turn. So that means you can attack with your primary, and then immediately after attack with, like, say, an ion cannon or a blaster turret or whatever. Any turret weapon that's equipped to the Y-Wing, he'll be able to attack right after he hits with his primary weapon. Speaking of turrets, for his turret upgrade, I've chosen a twin laser turret. They have an attack value 3, can be used at range 2 to 3. And they state, attack. Perform this attack twice, even against a ship outside your firing arc. Again, with the BTLA-4 title card, that cancels that out. Each time this attack hits, the defender suffers 1 damage, then cancel all dice results. So basically, with the twin laser turret, it allows Horton Salm to essentially triple tap, not double tap. So, yeah, because, again, he can attack with his primary. BTLA-4 allows him to attack with his turret right after. And twin laser turret allows you to attack twice in the same turn. What's even better is that they have a range of 2 to 3, so that means if you get any blanks, you can use Horton Salm's ability to reroll your blanks and ensure a better shot. Yeah, greater increasing your chances of scoring hits with the twin lasers. So Horton Salm gets a regular attack, then he gets a double attack with a twin laser turret, effectively allowing him to score a triple tap with the twin lasers. For his first warhead, I've given him an extra munitions, this is becoming a classic for pretty much anyone who uses a bomber-class ship. And it states, when you equip this card, place 1 ordnance token on each equipped warhead, missile, and bomb upgrade card. When you are instructed to discard an upgrade card, you may discard 1 ordnance token on the card instead. So, extra munitions for a slightly lower cost than getting pretty much the same munition with using the second warhead slot. This allows you to subtract the cost by 2. Subtract the cost by however many the original cost. So say you want to do 2 advanced torpedoes, that would cost 6 each, making it 12. With the extra munitions, you sacrifice a warhead slot to decrease the cost by 4. But you'll still get both the torpedoes, because extra munitions allows you to carry 2 of the same weapon at the cost of a warhead slot. And normally I would have gone with an ion cannon turret with Horton Salm, but because I got the VT-49 decimator, it came with a warhead that I think might prove to be very useful, especially with Horton Salm, and that is the ion torpedoes. They have an attack value of 4 and can be used at range 2 to 3, and they state, hang on, come on, there we go. They state, spend your target lock and discard this card to perform this attack. If this attack hits, the defender and each ship at range 1 of it receives 1 ion token. So this is really good for disabling hordes, swarms of starfighters that like to hang around each other, especially swarms like Howlrunner and Obsidian Squadron, because they pretty much have to huddle around her in order to take full advantage of her effect. But ion torpedoes, basically, they have an attack value 4 and can be used at range 2 to 3. So again, taking advantage of Horton Salm's ability of allowing him to reroll blanks at range 2 to 3. Basically, the ion torpedoes allows for mass disabling of any starfighter. Not really useful against large ships, but again, it's good for disabling swarms of enemies as long as they are within range 1 of the intended target. And then for his Astromech, rather than give him an R2 Astromech, I decided to give him R5 P9. Because at the end of the combat phase, you may spend one of your focus tokens to recover 1 shield up to your shield value. So with R5 P9, as long as I don't use the focus token I give Horton Salm, I can spend it to recover 1 shield value. Which is good because Horton Salm, even though he's a bomber, only has a shield value of 3. So this will be pretty useful for keeping his shields up. Alternatively, I could have chosen R2-D2, but R2-D2 only applies if you use green maneuvers, and Horton Salm doesn't have that many green maneuvers on him. So, yeah, this kind of turns out that this is kind of the better of the two in regards to ships like the Y-Wing, because you don't need to do a green maneuver, you just need to have a focus token, which you're more likely to have after the round's over. And now I move on to the interceptor of the group, and that is piloted by Arvel Crynyd. He has a pilot skill of 6, and he flies the RZ-1 A-Wing Interceptor. He has an attack value of 2, an agility value of 3, a hull value of 2, and a shield value of 2. He can take on the Focus, Lock-On, Boost, and Evade actions, cost 23 Squadron points, and he's able to take on a missile upgrade. His ability states, you may declare an enemy ship inside your firing arc that you are touching as the target of your attack. So Arvel Crynyd, if he makes a maneuver, or if enemy makes a maneuver that causes them to bump, if Arvel Crynyd has them in his line of fire, he can still attack them. Which is something no other ship can do. To take full advantage of his ability, I've given him the title card A-Wing Test Pilot, which states your upgrade bar gains 1 Elite Pilot Skill Upgrade icon. You cannot equip 2 of the same Elite Pilot Skill Upgrade cards, and you cannot equip this card if your pilot skill value is 1 or lower. So the only ones that can't use this are the prototype pilots, but anything that's a Green Squadron pilot or above can equip this card. And this is really good for Arvel because he doesn't have an elite pilot skill, despite the fact he's an elite pilot. And for his missile, I've gone with a Chardaan refit, which is basically, these days, is now a must when you're flying an A-Wing, because it has a negative squadron point cost of 2, which brings the cost down and allows you to allocate points for an extra upgrade or for an extra ship. And for his elite pilot skill, I've gone with another card that I got with the Decimator, and that is Intimidation. This states, when you are touching an enemy ship, reduce that ship's agility value by 1. See how I've taken full advantage of Arvel's ability? Arvel allows him to attack even if his base is touching another ship. With Intimidation, it decreases the enemy's agility value by 1. So basically this turns him into a pseudo Wedge Antilles. The difference being is that he has to be touching the enemy ship. So with Arvel, you want to rush in and collide with enemy ship as many times as possible, reduce the enemy's agility value, and reduce the enemy's agility value while still being able to attack with Arvel. And plus, because you'll be at range 1, you'll get that boost. You'll get that attack boost, so that means your attack value goes up to 3 instead of 2. And their agility value goes down by 1, so this is perfect for large ships like the VT-49 or the Shuttle, or bombers like the Y-Wing or the TIE Bomber or whatever. So yeah, this is my Death Star 2 attack group. The advantages of this group is, with Wedge, all of these ships have the ability to either reroll attack dice or reduce enemies' agility value. Wedge by nature is allowed to decrease enemy's agility value by 1 regardless of where he attacks. Push to limit lets him take both of his actions at the same time at the cost of getting stressed. His R2 Astromech will allow him to relieve that stress the next turn, turning all of his 1 and 2 speed maneuvers as green maneuvers. Flechettes will deal stress damage, and Munitions Failsafe will ensure that he keeps the Flechettes as long as he keeps missing. For Horton Salm, the BTLA-4 allows him to attack twice in the same turn, at the cost of not being able to attack outside his firing arc with a turret. The twin laser turret gives him basically 2 extra attacks in the same turn. The extra munitions combined with the ion torpedoes allows him to carry 2 ion torpedoes at pretty much like one third of the cost. and also allows for mass disabling against swarms. And R5P9 will keep his shields up, so long as he keeps taking a focus action. And Arvel Crynyd allows him to attack. Arvel Crynyd will basically be able to attack regardless if he's touching or not. A-Wing Test Pilot gives him that elite pilot skill he needs for Intimidation, which will decrease the enemy's agility value by 1 so long as he's touching base. And the Chardaan refit will decrease his cost, which allowed for this build to take place. And Wedge and Arvel will probably be the ones attacking up close, while Horton Salm maintains his distance. Disadvantages, aside from the obvious, with Wedge and Arvel not being able to take them any hits, and Horton Salm having a low agility value. Horton Salm, in order to take full advantage, you have to be attacking from a distance, so he's probably going to be lagging behind. Wedge, if you don't use push the limit well enough, then you could land yourself in some trouble. And with Arvel, he has to get close to take full advantage of his ability, as well as Intimidation, which also makes him a prime target for enemy ships that's tried to swarm in on him, because he's only an A-Wing. He has a high agility value, yes, but the agility doesn't really matter if your dice rolls are bad. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So yeah, this is my Death Star 2 attack group. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Any constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. If you like, you may use this build for any competitive or casual play, or if you'd like, you may tweak it or revamp it to your own specifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Corbin22, signing off.